Senior year, I ran for class president and lost after Jake announced, "No one's voting for you. You're invisible." They all laughed while I stood there, crushed. 15 years later, at our reunion gala, the mayor greeted me first and said, "The governor's been waiting to see you." I was the invisible girl in high school. Not bullied exactly, but ignored. Overlooked. Not pretty enough for the popular girls. Not loud or wild enough for the weird kids. I was there, but nobody ever really saw me. Until the day I tried to stand out, and it all went to hell. It was the fall of senior year. September. The school was getting ready for homecoming. I decided to run for class president. It sounds dumb now, but it meant something to me. I wanted to be part of something before it was all over. I wanted to prove that I mattered. I spent weeks on my speech. I stayed after school to talk to teachers. I printed flyers. I even borrowed my mom's old blazer because I thought it looked professional. When it was finally time to speak in the auditorium, I could barely hold the microphone steady. My hands were shaking. I wasn't nervous about the speech itself. I was nervous because I knew I wasn't popular, and I didn't know how cruel people could be when they sensed weakness. I was 2 minutes into my speech when it happened. Jake cut me off from the back row. Jake Delaney. Captain of the football team. Homecoming king the year before. Perfect teeth. Girls always laughed at his jokes, even when they weren't funny. He shouted, "No one's voting for you. You're invisible." The whole room exploded with laughter. Someone behind me actually slapped the back of the chair and shouted, "Dumb." I saw a few teachers smiling. One of them actually put their hand over their mouth to hide it. I stood there, frozen. I felt my stomach drop like I was falling. I didn't finish the speech. I mumbled something and walked off the stage as fast as I could. I didn't cry until I got to the second-floor girls' bathroom. I locked myself in the last stall and stayed there until the final bell rang. No one came looking for me. The next day, I saw someone had written "Invisible for President" on my locker with a dry erase marker. And just like that, I gave up. I didn't run for anything after that. I didn't go to senior prom. I stopped raising my hand in class. I kept my head down and waited for the year to be over. After graduation, I left town. I didn't come back for holidays. I didn't visit friends. Truth is, I didn't have many. I got into Arizona State with a scholarship for public service majors. I didn't care about being liked anymore. I just wanted to build something. I wanted to make sure people like me didn't get forgotten. That kids who didn't have money, or looks, or loud voices could still matter. I got to work. I did internships no one else wanted. I worked on city council campaigns in neighborhoods people called too rough. I cleaned up parks. I stayed late. I learned how funding worked, how to write proposals, how to make things move through systems that were slow and full of excuses. By the time I turned 30, I was in Austin running citywide housing grants. At 32, I moved to Denver and started working with the state housing authority. By 35, I was chief of staff to the governor. I was the one who helped win 2 major housing bills, got federal money for food programs, and pushed a program to rebuild public libraries. People knew my name. People returned my calls. And when the Denver mayor needed someone to lead a new public-private initiative, he called me. Then I got the reunion invitation. Class of 2010. 15-year reunion gala. Formal. At a hotel downtown. Black tie. Dinner, drinks, music. The envelope sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days. I almost tossed it. Then I thought about that auditorium. Jake's voice. The laughter. And something in me just snapped back awake. I bought a dress. Navy blue. Elegant. Long, but not flashy. I wore heels, pulled my hair back, and went alone. No +1. No backup. I didn't need it. The night of the reunion, I walked into that ballroom and instantly felt it. People turned. I saw some of their eyes go wide, like they recognized me but couldn't quite place where from. I walked past tables filled with people I once sat next to in class. A few waved. One or two just stared. And then I saw Jake. He was by the bar, laughing loud, like always. His hairline had thinned. He looked bloated, like he drank more than he should. He was wearing a suit, but the shirt collar was too tight. He didn't see me at first. But when he did, he stopped talking. His eyes narrowed. He tilted his head like he was trying to figure out why I looked familiar. He took one slow sip of his drink. Then the mayor walked in. The real, actual mayor of Denver. And he walked right past everyone, came straight to me with a huge smile and said, "There she is. The woman of the hour." People turned. The mayor gave me a hug and said, "The governor's been waiting to see you. He's over by the corner, can't wait to talk." That's when Jake saw me again. This time, really saw me. His eyes widened. His mouth opened a little. He turned his whole body to face me. He looked me up and down. And then, I swear to God, he actually took a step back. I didn't say a word to him. Not yet. I let the mayor guide me across the room. I could feel eyes on me. Whispers. People asking each other, "Who is she?" One guy I remembered from AP English muttered, "Wait, wasn't she that girl who tried to run for class pres?" I wanted to turn around and shout, "Yeah. I'm that girl." But I didn't. Not yet. I didn't plan on talking to Jake that night. Honestly, I didn't think I'd need to. I figured just showing up, being seen, and then walking away with the mayor and the governor at my side would say everything I needed to say. But people like Jake, they don't stay quiet when they feel small. I was halfway through a conversation with the governor about new funding for family shelters when I saw Jake walking toward us. He had a drink in one hand and that fake confidence I remembered from high school all over his face. "Excuse me," he said, stepping in between us. "I hate to interrupt, but, wow. I didn't even recognize you at first. You look successful." He said successful like it had quotation marks around it. The governor raised an eyebrow and looked at me. I just smiled politely. Jake stuck out his hand. "It's Jake," he said. "Jake Delaney. Not sure if you remember me." I looked him in the eye. "Oh, I remember you." That seemed to throw him off a little. His grin twitched. Then he laughed, like we were old friends catching up. Man, I was such a dumbass in high school. We all were, right? God, the crap we used to say. Just kids being stupid. He said it loud, like he wanted other people nearby to hear and laugh along. But nobody did. The governor gave him a quick nod and said, "Excuse us," then gently pulled me back into the conversation. Jake stood there for a second, trying to act like it didn't bother him. But it did. I saw it in the way he downed his drink and avoided eye contact for the rest of the night. About an hour later, I was near the hallway outside the ballroom, checking messages on my phone, when I heard his voice behind me. "Look," Jake said. "Can we talk?" I turned around. He looked nervous. Sweaty. "Talk about what?" I asked. He glanced around to make sure no one was nearby. "I was a jerk back then," he said. "I know I hurt you. I just want to say I'm sorry." It sounded rehearsed. Like something he'd said before. I stared at him. I waited. He shifted from one foot to the other. "I didn't come here for an apology," I finally said. He looked annoyed. Just for a second. Then he plastered the fake smile back on. "Okay. Fair enough. But if you ever need anything, networking, referrals, hell, I work in finance now. Real estate. Let me know." That's when I realized something. He didn't recognize who I was. He knew I was someone. But he didn't understand what I was. What I'd built. What power I had. He still thought I might need something from him. I stared at him for a moment and then said, "You should Google me sometime. Or don't. I'm not invisible anymore." Then I walked away. Later that night, while people were dancing and getting sloppy at the open bar, I went out onto the terrace to get some air. A woman joined me. She was quiet, wearing a simple black dress. Looked like someone who had been left out of things most of her life. "Hey," she said shyly. "You probably don't remember me. I was 2 grades below you. My name's Callie." I searched her face. Nothing. But then she said something that stopped me cold. "You came to our neighborhood after the flood. With the community team. You brought blankets. Water. You talked to us. You talked to my mom. No one else did. That flood happened 10 years ago in South Austin. I had been sent with a disaster response team. We'd barely had time to prepare. I just wanted to say thanks," she added. "And it's kind of amazing to see someone like you come out of that school." We stood there in silence for a second. The music inside was muffled, the night air cool. She wasn't the only one who approached me like that night. And that's when I saw the real twist. Jake didn't remember me because he never saw me in the first place. Not really. To him, I was a background character. A girl he made a joke about once. But I remembered him. I remembered everything. And while he spent 15 years trying to relive his glory days, I was building something real. The reunion had just begun. And my revenge? It wasn't just about showing up looking good. It was about what I was about to do next. I didn't plan on taking things further with Jake. Just being seen by the right people, with him watching from the sidelines, was enough. At least, I thought it was. But things changed after I ran into Melissa Granger. Melissa was one of the it girls back in high school. Always dressed like she was about to be on some CW show. I hadn't seen her all night, but as I was walking back from the terrace, there she was, standing with 2 other women, staring at me. She stepped forward, heels clicking on the marble floor. "Hey. Wait, you're Violet, right?" I nodded. Her eyes flicked to the governor's security team down the hall. Then back to me. She gave this fake little laugh. "Wow, you've done well for yourself." I didn't say anything. Just waited. "I work in real estate." "I think Jake mentioned he talked to you earlier," she said, tilting her head. "So that's what this was." She was fishing. Jake must have seen something he didn't like in me, power, recognition, connections, and ran crying to Melissa. Maybe they were still a thing. Or maybe he still thought she belonged to him, the way he used to act. "You two still close?" I asked. That caught her off guard. She hesitated. "Jake? Oh no. He's complicated." Which was code for, "He's a mess, but I can't let go." I let her sit in that awkward silence for a moment before I turned to walk away. And then I heard her say it. "He told us what happened back then. The class president thing." I stopped. I didn't turn around. I just let her keep talking. "He said you kind of took it the wrong way. That it was a joke. That people laugh, you know? You were always sensitive." That word hit me like a slap. Sensitive. That's what they called us. The kids they made fun of. The ones they embarrassed. We were too sensitive if we didn't laugh along. I turned slowly and looked at her dead in the eye. I wasn't sensitive. I was ignored. And you were part of that. Her mouth dropped open slightly. But I didn't wait for a response. That night, I went home and made a decision. 2 weeks later, I started working behind the scenes on a plan I'd quietly been thinking about for months. Expanding the statewide housing access program into smaller towns, including the one where I grew up. I had the authority, the budget, the right partners. I made sure we looked into a few old business permits along the way, especially ones linked to shady developers taking advantage of rezoning opportunities. Guess whose name came up? Jake Delaney. He was part of a partnership that had bought up foreclosed homes, flipped them at triple value, and left tenants high and dry once property taxes went up. I dug deeper. Turns out, there were complaints. Lawsuits. Even a quiet settlement 2 years ago involving code violations and unethical lending practices. And then it clicked. He was broke. Still driving a nice car, still wearing designer suits, but his name was on nothing. He was just the face. A guy they used to sign paperwork and talk smooth in meetings. He was fading. Drowning, probably. So I called a meeting. State-backed grants were about to roll into his territory. And I made sure the contracts were steered toward minority-owned developers. Community-first projects. People who actually lived there. Jake's company didn't make the cut. He called me. Left a voicemail. Hey, Violet. Long time. I heard you're working on some housing stuff in our area. I'd love to chat. Maybe collaborate. You know, give back to the hometown. Let's catch up. I didn't return the call. A week later, Melissa messaged me on LinkedIn. Hi Violet, hope you're doing well. Jake and I are actually trying to start a local youth mentorship nonprofit, wondering if you'd be willing to help us get some visibility or maybe pass along some contacts? She added a smiley face at the end. I didn't reply. But I printed out the message. Framed it. Put it next to the Invisible for President flyer I'd saved from my locker all those years ago. A few months after the reunion, I went back to my hometown. Not for nostalgia. Not for closure. I was there on official state business. We were launching a $12 million community redevelopment initiative. We planned to tear down old, unsafe buildings and replace them with affordable housing, education centers, and small business spaces. The governor supported it. The mayor signed off. Local media was covering it. I stood on a podium in front of my old high school and announced the beginning of a full transformation. And Jake? He was nowhere near the ribbon cutting. His company had tried to block part of the project. He filed an appeal claiming unfair distribution of state contracts. He sent lawyers. He tried to stall the project just long enough to flip some of his remaining properties. It didn't work. Because we had receipts. Emails. Meeting logs. Copies of the mentorship nonprofit paperwork, which turned out to be a shell company designed to funnel donations into his failing real estate group. Melissa was listed as a board member. I didn't need to take them to court. I just sent the file to a reporter from the local station. One who grew up in that town. One who remembered Jake. She ran the story. It aired on a Friday night and went viral locally by Saturday morning. Former homecoming king turned real estate developer under investigation for fraud and misuse of nonprofit funds. By Monday, the mayor of our hometown issued a statement distancing the city from Jake's projects. By Wednesday, his company's website was taken down. By the end of the month, 3 of his investors pulled out and publicly demanded audits. I heard through someone that Jake tried to spin it as a political hit job. Said he was the victim of a smear campaign. But it didn't stick. Because I never mentioned him publicly. Never gave a quote. Never responded to any of it. I didn't have to. The facts were enough. And the facts crushed him. Melissa filed to remove her name from the nonprofit a week later. I found out through a LinkedIn update. Then came a photo, her alone at some hotel bar, holding a cocktail, tagged by someone else with the caption, "Life's too short for liars." I didn't feel sorry for her. She knew what he was. She stayed because she wanted to stay close to the spotlight, even if it was dimming. And Jake? He sold his condo. Quietly. His car, too. Rumor was he moved in with a cousin out in Grand Junction. Still telling people he's between projects. But here's the real twist. The one no one saw coming. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. After the story broke, I started getting letters. Emails. People from my high school. Not the popular ones. Not the ones who laughed that day in the auditorium. Kids who were quiet. Forgotten. Like me. One woman wrote, "I remember what Jake said to you on stage. I was sitting right there. I didn't laugh, but I didn't speak up either. I felt guilty about it for years. I just wanted you to know you weren't invisible to everyone." Another guy messaged, "You made it. UF ****ing made it. That gives me hope." That's when I understood. What I built, who I became, it wasn't just to get back at them. It was for the people like me. The ones who stayed small because someone made them feel that way. So yeah, I got my revenge. Jake lost everything. Melissa was exposed. The people who laughed that day had to watch me from the sidelines while I led something bigger than any high school popularity contest. But even better? I wasn't invisible anymore. And I never will be again.